where to start. I think maybe I'll start with these guys. They're first. They're from a separate series that I did quite a few years ago. I think the muse was trying to get my attention. For quite a few years I've been painting commercially. I sell a lot of grizzly bears and landscapes, and they sell really well. And in the middle 2000s sometime I got kind of sad about that they weren't really coming from an authentic place, that I was painting for money and not really having anything to say. I was like, what am I trying to say? What do I have to say as an artist? Do I have anything to say as an artist? And kind of having a little bit of an existential crisis about it. And one night I was in bed, and like all of these pictures started like flying into my head, and it was 1 a.m. or something, and I got up and I started scribbling down the ideas, like really fast little sketches. And I woke up in the morning and started painting. And this series of work is what came out of that. And there's quite a few more. I had a show at Island Mountain Arts a few years ago and had them all there. But they've sold over the years, and these are what I have left. So these I included because they were the first call to authenticity. It took a really long time for any of them to sell. People still wanted my grizzly bears and all that kind of stuff, and I kind of lost confidence. So I went back to painting grizzly bears and horses and landscapes, and continued to sell well, and continued to have this nagging voice that I wasn't being authentic. I own a cafe in Bella Coola, and it's been really, really successful. Too successful, I'm exhausted. But finally I decided I didn't really need to make money with my art. And so something kind of shifted. And there was a series of things that happened, but needless to say, I started seeing pictures again. And like these ones, they were already there. Like, it wasn't sitting there thinking, what should I paint? They were just a picture that was already in my mind. And the woman in the chair over here, she was the first one. And so I finished her, and I hung her on the wall in my gallery in Bella Coola. And a friend of mine who's a psychologist said, who is she? I was like, I don't know. I don't know, she's a girl in a chair. He went, interesting. And because he was a psychologist, that made me think a lot, right? And so I recently started meditating, and so I meditated about it. And she said she was Danu. And I went, oh, Danu, that's interesting. And I Googled Danu, and she's the Celtic creator goddess of Ireland. She created the whole continent of Ireland. She's the patron of the Tuatha De Danann. She helped them come from nothing, burdened and broken, to a shining race of magical people. Then next came Bridget. She's the woman with the deer. I think she was next. It was kind of a cross between the two, the girl with the wolves and Bridget. And again, it was like, okay, who is she? And she turned out to be Bridget. So as time went by, these pictures kept coming, and I paint as fast as I could. I work a lot of days in the cafe, but I started looking into psychology because of what my friend had said first, and I realized after a while that all of these paintings are archetypes, and what was happening to me was a spiritual awakening. I hate to call it spiritual, it's more of a psychological awakening. I'm not really sure. Carl Jung had a theory about the process of individuation, and Joseph Campbell wrote about it from a man's perspective in The Hero's Journey. And really, it happens when you face the dark night of the soul, and I suppose modern psychology would call it a midlife crisis, and medicate you and tell you to go home and, do some self-care. Yeah. I'm an artist and I'm a fixer, so that wasn't enough for me, and I wanted to know where the heck these paintings were coming from. Right. So I did some deep spiritual digging and started unpacking a lot of trauma, and realized that as I work on a painting, that's what the archetype is that I'm working with to heal in myself. So Danu is the mother. She's asking me, who is looking after you? How are you lighting your fires of creativity, and also Bridget. So Bridget was the goddess of creativity and the fires. So she is the one that stokes the fires of creativity, brings you out of the dark, and shows you the light. The girl with the wolves is our inner child. Girls typically at her age, it's when we're told to shut up and sit down and put on a shirt, quit climbing trees, don't talk back, don't show your body, don't be wild anymore. By the time we're 13, we've been programmed that this is how girls act. She's saying, no way, these are my people. And she's barefoot in the snow because if you decide to be wild in your life and not let that go, it's a hard, cold, misty, hard to see path. But she's begging us to reclaim that, our inner child, our healthy inner child, who we were before the world broke us and tore us down, before it told us we were supposed to put on a bunch of masks and not be ourselves. The rabbit she's holding is a symbol for our intuition. In Celtic mythology, Boudica, the great warrior Celtic queen, the last one, she defeated the Romans in one of her battles. She carried a rabbit in her cloak that she asked for help when she needed guidance. So the rabbit and the hare, it's a symbol for our intuition. We have the dark wolf, that's our shadow side, and the white wolf, which is our light. And then the rest of the pack, which is our community. Also the trees. They were meant to be aspen trees, which I couldn't figure out how to paint on a white background. The symbolism of the aspens is that their root systems are all interconnected. They're all actually one tree and they all feed each other. So there was some major symbolism behind that one. So after the nice light and who's claiming, who is healing you and who is being a mother and how are you stoking your creativity and healing your inner child, well then there was her. And she's Mish. So I didn't know I was painting Mish. Mish is a woman from Irish mythology whose father was a warrior from another land who decided he was going to come and claim Ireland for his own. He didn't know how fierce the Irish people were. He got his ass kicked. And so she'd come on the ship with him, and she's in with all her finery and everything, but now all of her people are slaughtered. Her dad's dead. She finds him on the battlefield, and she is lost because she doesn't know what's going to happen to her now. Her father is dead. She loved him dearly, and she tries to bring him back to life by licking his blood, and she's holding his broken body, and she loses it. She just loses it. She shrieks, she grows fur and feathers and flies off into the mountains, turns into a wild creature. And for the next 200 years, ravages the land and kills anything that comes near. So the King of Ireland, he's like, this will not do. We can't have this thing. So somebody has to deal with this woman. And nobody will. All his warriors are way too afraid. But this gentle harper, he comes and he says, I will. So he comes every day. He gets a little bit closer and he just sits down and plays his harp. And he goes home. And the next day he goes and he plays his harp. She starts to get curious and she starts to get closer. And as all good love stories go, she falls in love with him. She allows him to get close. He washes off the fur and feathers. She becomes human and sane again. They go home, live happily ever after until he dies. But this time, she doesn't lose her shit. She becomes a poet and a creatrix. So basically, she is the archetype of the wild woman. She's what happens when we no longer know how to deal with the world anymore. She's our fear, our rage, our grief, our sexuality, everything that has been told is wrong. When she can't deal with it anymore, she's that. She's done. She's just done. And the story tells us that the only thing that can heal this wounding of the feminine is the divine masculine. So a whole masculine. That doesn't mean a man, that means healing the masculine in ourselves. Or it could be a man. However it works, the only way for the wounded opposite is to heal that wound. So she was a really powerful one for me. She really set me on this journey, sorry, not journal. I thought I was going crazy for a while. I'm sure my family did too. The Phoenix, she's pretty self-explanatory. The Phoenix is about rising from the ashes, and she voluntarily goes into the fire every cycle and then grows again, and goes into the fire and grows again, because the Phoenix knows that the only way to transform is through fire. And then through all this craziness that hurt like hell, there came the wise woman, the crone. She is the Kayak. The Kayak is, she is also a creator goddess of Ireland. She's a triple goddess as well. She rules over winter. She shows us that the deepest healing is in the darkest of places. All of the seeds need the winter to regroup and to fertilize and to go into the dark so that we can grow again. And she's our wise teacher. In Irish legend, she's the one that created the land. The mountains, the geographical parts of Ireland, and she also had the power of life and death. She could kill you, she could heal you, she could, she's the constant cycle of death and rebirth and death and rebirth. So archetypally she symbolizes that too. In all endings are new beginnings. She's holding a phoenix egg, which is again a symbol for transformation and creation, and she's stirring the cauldron of creativity. And then the next one after her, well, it was a fight between Cernunnos, the divine masculine, who is not finished yet. I still have a bit of healing to do. And the Morrigan, who is the goddess of war. The Morrigan was said to be a shapeshifter. She could turn into a raven at will, or a red-eared white bull, or white cow, I'm sorry, or a cat, or mist. She was able to control the weather. She could throw a mist over the battlefield so that warriors couldn't see where they were going and didn't know who they were killing. She could foretell your death. She was a fierce warrior, but she usually just used confusion to, the tools of confusion to baffle her enemies. She could turn into a raven to go spy. She was a very strategic war leader. And I believe as an archetype, she just symbolizes it's kind of part of the divine masculine as well, but it's getting rid of what doesn't serve you. It's being brutal with yourself and your shadow and getting rid of what doesn't serve you. And again, that's connected to the rebirth and death and rebirth cycles. The raven, the carrion crows are a symbol of death and rebirth. From death comes new life, and she makes us brutally honest with ourselves. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the Morrigan. She's also not finished. She's a work in progress, as well as the Cernunnos over there, who's a symbol for the divine masculine. Who would be the healed masculine, like Christ or Buddha. And he was the god of the hunt. He was said to end fertility. Him and Bridget would get together at Bealtaine and have a foray in the woods and ensure the fertility of the gardens for the next year. So again, with her, they're bringing your creative gifts to light, strengthening your, just strengthening your inner feminine and your inner masculine. So I think that's it. I think I've covered it all.
Thanks, Sarah. That was awesome.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's really great to see everyone.